Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK back at you with another video here to break down the Monday Night Football show and say we got the Cowboys and the Chargers. This should be a much better game than last night. Should be a good amount of points scored in this one. If this is your first time watching, I cover content for daily fantasy sports, NBA, NFL, and player prop sites like PrizePicks, Underdog, and Parlay Play. Guys, if you're not on Parlay Play, you can use the link down below for a $100 deposit match bonus, or you can use the code DKDFS. They do have NFL props. They have esports stuff, combo props, MLB. So again, if you guys are interested, the link is in the description. And if you're looking for premium content, more content for DFS or for PrizePicks, Underdog stuff, link is down below. Absolutely insane run. This is one of the most insane runs I've been on this last week. You can go check out my Twitter if you're interested, but hitting at almost 170% ROI for NBA preseason this last week. Also, NBA DFS has been crazy too, just winning every single night. NFL props, NFL was solid yesterday, went 7-4 on the main slate for props, and did cash on the Showdown slate. So when a Showdown slate doesn't go as the public thinks, usually the sharp players win, right? So what did the Fish do? You know, they played 50+% on Bills D. They played 20% Bills D in the captain, which is just a horrific play. And the Giants honestly should have, the Bills D people should have been punished way more. Giants are on the 1 yard line twice and could not score right at the end of the half and then at the end of the game. Also, that was a hold on Darren Waller. So I went to a 3-3 stack. Was very unique. Again, Waller 16%, Robinson 25%, Hyatt 11%, and Hyatt had that long catch called back, which really tilted me. But I did 3-3 and had a really solid night. I only played in the low stakes. That was it. Again, I was focusing more on NBA stuff, but was still a good night overall. And again, you will notice that, right? You know, with the Chiefs Jets, right? Everyone thought the Chiefs were going to dominate the Jets. Well, the Jets kept it very competitive, and you saw a lot of sharp players win the big money. So again, when a game doesn't go exactly like the public thinks, it's usually those sharp DFS players that do well. But when you see all the chalk hit, right? All the chalk and the game goes exactly how the public thinks, that's when the fish do good, and that's when the sharper players usually lose. Again, that you will notice that trend in daily fantasy sports. Okay, so let's get into it. We'll start it off with Dallas. So on the Dallas side, we get Dak Prescott at the top of 10K. Again, I think him and Justin Herbert, of the two, probably Herbert is going to be more popular. Herbert a little bit more expensive, but also I think you could argue Herbert has the higher ceiling. Now with a guy like Dak, he can run a little bit. You know, three carries, 24 yards, 6 carries, 14 yards, but usually a bit more of a pocket passer. We haven't seen a big game from Dak, but also be a little bit careful. A lot of these games have been massive blowouts, right? Against the Giants, 40-0, 30-10 here, 38-3 here. And then on the other side, so they've been blowing out teams. And then against the 49ers, they get blown out. So like we haven't seen really a competitive game for Dallas yet. I mean, this game against Arizona, I guess, was the only real somewhat competitive game. So I wouldn't read into the stats too much for Dak. And I think that will lower the ownership on him, right? I think people are going to box score watch and see, oh my gosh, Dak hasn't gone for 20+ fantasy points once this year. I can't play him. Be careful, right? That's why you have to do a little bit more. You can't just look at stats and make assumptions from that. Look at what happened in those games. A lot of those games, Dak Prescott was not playing the fourth quarter because the games were massive blowouts. So I do think Dak's interesting for that reason. Now, Tony Pollard, I think, is a really interesting bounce back spot here. Same thing, a lot of these skill position Dallas players, right? Blowout. Like Pollard has barely played the fourth quarter in a lot of these games. So that's why I think the Dallas side is very interesting on this slate. Pollard is basically a bell cow back, very involved in the passing game, and I'm not scared of the Chargers defense team on defense. So I actually really like Pollard at this price point. I think he's going to be lower owned than he should be. CeeDee Lamb, 9K. Same thing I said about Dak. Same thing I said about Pollard, right? Most of these games, Dallas is blowing them out so they don't have to throw, and CeeDee's is not playing in the fourth. Now, again, this game against the 49ers, they have the other side of the spectrum. They got destroyed. So, CeeDee Lamb at 9K also has a massive ceiling. He's their wide receiver 1. I think the main guys for Dallas look very interesting. I think all three are going to be under-owned because people are just going to box score watch. But you cannot do that, right? Almost every single game that Dallas has played in this year have been a massive blowout. Cooks at 5.4 is the wide receiver 2. Gallup is 2.8K as the wide receiver 3. These guys are going to play majority of the game. Dallas doesn't really rotate receivers. Again, I don't really want to mention snap counts because all these games have been like huge blowouts. So like that's why I'm not really mentioning it. But again, these receivers will play majority of the game in a competitive game. Cooks and Gallup. Cooks is 5'4", kind of indifferent on him. He's averaging, about 5 targets a game. Still a guy that can catch a deep ball. So like I'm fine with Cooks. I'm fine with Gallup. I think Gallup's a little bit easier to get to. 7 targets here, 6 targets here, 5 targets here. 2.8K. Again, he's still a guy that can catch a deep ball as well. So the secondary receivers for Dallas, I think, are interesting plays in Cooks and in Gallup. I do like Jake Ferguson. I think he's your safest secondary target. He's a guy that can look to in the red zone a lot, and he's playing a good chunk of the game as well. 7 targets in 3 of the first 5 games for Jake Ferguson. Again, a guy that they are looking to in the red zone as well. So of these secondary targets, I think he's your safest. But I think you could argue that Cooks and Gallup have a bit of a higher ceiling, but a lower floor. A little bit more boom or bust. Ferguson, I would argue, has a little bit of a higher floor, maybe not as high of a ceiling as those other receivers. Aubrey, 5K. Again, feels a little pricey for kicker, but totally fine. Cowboys D at 3.8. Neither defense is going to be super popular on the slate, so they're both fine. Rico Dowdle's been operating as the running back 2. Had 5 carries last game. Again, though, a lot of his games have been blowouts, but still, he's a guy that most likely in a competitive game, I would say probably plays around 20% of the snaps or so, which makes him playable on this slate. Kevontae Turpin, I'll mention him because he's not playing a lot, but they'll bring him in for some trick plays. He'll get carries at times too, right? 1 carry here, 2 carries here. I think Turpin's an interesting guy. He's like a gadget player. Definitely viable on the showdown. Definitely in play, really cheap. He'll see some snaps, and again, he's one of those gadget guys. Like when he's out there, he's probably getting the ball. Deuce Vaughn, RB3. I would just rather play Dowdle for a little bit more. What else? Hendershot, I believe, is still. He's still on the IR. So you're going to see Schoonmaker be the tight end too. Now he's not running a ton of routes, but he is averaging a little over a target a game over the last 3 games. So playable in a large field tournament, kind of like the Millie Maker here. And then there's one other guy I wanted to mention. Where is Tolbert? He's been operating as the wide receiver 4 for Dallas. He's $200. Again, I don't think he plays a ton, but he'll probably see a few snaps. Okay, let's move on to the Chargers. So on the Chargers side, you got Austin Eckler, 11.2K. First game back. Now, again, he was in the IR. I haven't seen anything of a limit. He said he could have played the week before, but they wanted to take it play conservative with him. So I think he's close to 100%. So I'd be pretty surprised if Eckler's on any sort of a snap count here. And with that being said, I expect Eckler to go back to his normal workload, probably like 60, 65% of the snaps, and just be super productive, right, in his touches, and he's very involved in the passing game. So very safe play at the top. Again, we'll monitor the news, but like I said, I would be very surprised if he's on any sort of a limit. Herbert, 10.8K. Has a pretty high ceiling on for 20 plus. Now, again, it's going to be really interesting to see what the ownership difference is with him and Dak Prescott. I will say I think Herbert has a little bit of a higher ceiling, but I also think he's going to be much more popular. And like I said, don't read too much into the Dak box scores, right? Almost every one of those games have been massive blowouts. So Herbert I like, but again, I want to see what the ownership is with him and Dak. If Herbert's going to be way more popular than Dak Prescott, me personally, I think I'd be more willing to go to Dak in tournaments then, if that's the case. But again, ownership will determine what I want to do here with the quarterbacks. Keenan Allen, clear wide receiver 1, getting a lot of targets. Last game, S. Chalk was a bit of a bust, but he's averaging over 10 targets a game through the first 4 games. I have no issue if you want to go to Keenan Allen. He's going to play majority of the game. Josh Palmer was a little bit banged up. It sounds like he'll be good to go. He's been the wide receiver 2. Now, if you take a look at last week and the snaps for Josh Palmer, they were really good. He played 56 of the 65 snaps, ran 32 routes. Keenan Allen played 49 of 65 snaps, ran 32 routes. So basically, it was Palmer and Allen running all the routes, 32 of the 33. So they basically ran almost 100% of the routes. Palmer, a little bit of a discount off Keenan Allen. I think he's in a weird spot, kind of this mid-range where he might go a little bit overlooked, but I think Palmer's a pretty solid play here. Not really interested in Josh Kelly. He's not been good in the games that Austin Eckler's missed. Now, he will be operating as RB2, and he will still get touches. Eckler's not going to be a bell cow, but I have a pretty hard time paying this price point for Kelly. Now, we know, right, this is what's going to happen. Kelly has been massive chocolate almost every single game that Eckler's been out. This is the game that Kelly's going to smash, right? We know it's going to happen and just troll everyone. He's going to fall into the end zone 2 times. You know that's going to happen, and everyone's going to be. I'll be upset too because I played Kelly one of those weeks too. I'll definitely be tilted if I see Josh Kelly find pay dirt tonight. Jared, however, is 4.6K. Relatively safe value play, the tight end one. So last week, Gerald Everett, where is he? But 45 to 65 snaps or 19 routes, reasonable, right? Cheap price point, should run a good amount of the routes, fine with it. Quentin Johnson is 4.2. He'll be operating as the wide receiver 3. Now, he didn't play as much, obviously, as Allen and Palmer. He played 33 of the 65 snaps on 23 routes. So 23 of the 33 routes, well over 50% of the routes for Quentin Johnson. He's a guy that does have big play upside, and he's a big body, too. They can look to him in the red zone. So I think he's another, value play that does have a ceiling for sure. Chargers D, same thing said about the Cowboys D. I think the Cowboys defense is better than the Chargers defense, but I don't think either defense is going to be popular on the slate. Spiller will be the RB3, might get 1 or 2 touches, but again, I'm not really interested in that. Donald Parham is questionable. He was full participant in Thursday, Friday, so I assume he's going to go here. Now, he's the tight end too, and he will run routes. He played 15 snaps last game, ran 8 routes. I think he's, another guy you can look to in a milli maker setting. Davion, I wanted to mention, Darius Davis for the Chargers. So last week, he played 12 snaps, ran 6 routes, but he's another one of those kind of like gadget guys, right? He's kind of like a Kevontae Turpin-esque type guy, right? 3 carries here, 2 catches and 2 targets, and he's almost at the same price as Kevontae Turpin. So I would say literally get that Spider-Man gif out where it's like they're pointing at each other. That's Darius Davis and Kevontae Turpin, right? I think this is like almost the same play tonight. What else? I think that's probably it. Trey McKitty, tight end 3, 23 snaps, 3 routes. Stone Smart, 26 snaps, 6 routes. They will utilize a couple other tight ends. Again, just milli maker type plays. I think that's it, though. So thanks again for watching, guys. Again, if you do enjoy, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we'll see you guys all in the next video.